Do you own your own voice? And also, how can a one-word tweet really annoy your lawyers? Well, let's see. What am I talking about? Scarlett Johansson. She was asked to be the voice of something called ChatGPT, which is one of these AI things. I think the guy was called Altman or something who asked her. And she declined. She said, "Oh, thank you for your kind invitation, but I'd rather not." So he says, "No worries." ChatGPT's voice is launched, and Scarlett says, that sounds suspiciously like me. So she raises this on social media and says, "This is sounding really, really like me." And Mr. Altman replied with a one-word tweet. It said, "Her," which seems innocuous. However, Her was a film that Scarlett Johansson was in, where she played the voice of an AI. So clearly it was being interpreted as, yes, you are acknowledging that basically you've created the voice to copy that film, and that's why you wanted Scarlett Johansson's voice. Speaking of Scarlett Johansson films, check out one called Under the Skin. It's absolutely brilliant. It's a really, really good film. But yeah, so anyway, she objected to this, and he has now changed the voice. Her voice has been removed. But realistically, did she actually have a claim? Is there anything she could have done about that? The answer is probably not. You don't really in this, apart from in France where you do actually have a right to your own image, in most places you don't really have a right to your own image, and that would include your voice. But this is all becoming very relevant now with deep fakes and AI recreations, like resurrecting deceased movie stars and celebrities for films and adverts and things like that. And the nearest thing I can think of is, back in the 30s, there was a golfer, and Fry's, the chocolate people, used his image in an advert, a little sketch of him playing golf. The thing is that he hadn't given his permission for that, but he was an amateur golfer, and this was back in the days when amateur, the gentlemen and players thing was really, really big, and he sued for defamation because he said, "You are implying that I have sullied my amateur status by taking money to do adverts," and he was successful. I mean, this is a big thing. Just to go off on a tangent, I know you like them. Rugby league. The reason rugby league started is rugby union used to be an amateur game. And the argument was, well, if you don't let us pay our players, only rich people with private incomes can actually enjoy this. And it's, lots of working class people like it, but they can't really be doing like a shift down the mine or at mill and then be expected to train and play rugby. So we would like to actually pay them. And they said, no, that would sully the sport. So they're, basically, right, okay, we'll invent our own game of rugby with blackjack. And that is literally how rugby league started. It was merely so they could pay the players. But yes, I digress. So yeah, that's the situation. We have a thing called passing off, where that's where you are cashing in on somebody's brand reputation. And the market is confused and may think that your product or service is actually being provided by the bigger name. One thing I like about passing off claims is, in the old days of paper law reports, when you get these big books you see on the shelves, the IP ones had colour photographs in so that you could compare and contrast, like here's genuine fairy liquid and here's sort of like knockoff fairy liquid. Things seem to be changing now. Aldi, really, really push it, don't they? Because they've got their Aldidas trainer brand. They'd probably argue that they're bigger than Adidas now. Another little aside: Adidas and Puma are two brothers that fell out, and the factories are still literally opposite each other. But they just fell out so much they couldn't work with each other, so they set up rival factories. And I've already mentioned about the Aldi. You can always, because Aldi split as well, and you can tell if you're in one shareholder's Aldi or the other shareholder's Aldi by whether it's yellow or blue sort of colour scheming. But yeah, I digress, as I like to do. So yeah, I don't actually think Miss Johansson would have actually had a potential claim there. She could have probably argued it's an attempt at passing off, but the mere fact the voice sounds similar, so long as they're not saying, yes, this is Scarlett Johansson. Lots of people sound alike. And it's when they replace actors in sequels or cartoon versions of things. You'll get somebody. There's that guy who sounds a bit like, who's the guy who's in Ghostbusters? The guy who plays Garfield in the cartoon. he always Bill Murray. He's always the Bill Murray substitute whenever they need the voice. So You know, this isn't anything particularly new in Hollywood, and you know, or just in the media, and people seem to get away with it. Anything else happening in the news? Yes. I've spoken in the past about the Public Order Act, and I mentioned that the government were trying to sort of water down what needed to be shown before the police could arrest somebody for public order offences, because the offence was only committed if you caused serious disruption. But the government issued some guidance to the police by way of statutory instrument. In other words, it didn't go through Parliament, saying serious is anything that is more than minor. So if it's more than minor, it's serious. Liberty challenged that, and the courts come back and said, yeah, clearly it isn't. Serious means serious. It's an everyday word. If you want to lower the threshold, that's fine, but you'll have to do it through legislation, put it through Parliament. You can't just, Suella Braverman can't just sign a statutory instrument and fundamentally change the law. So now, before the police can nick somebody, they would have to show serious disruption. So it's like, you know, serious, you know, blocking a road for more than a few minutes, stopping critical services for more than a few minutes. You know, if it's just something that's annoying but fairly transient and doesn't really make much difference from a regular traffic jam, then that wouldn't cross the threshold. So that's been knocked back. I mean, there's no parliamentary time now for them to change the law, probably even if they wanted to. But it'd be interesting to see, you know, whether this makes any difference, you know, on the ground. I mean, obviously there's lots of protests going on at the moment, and there's lots of issues about how they are being policed, and maybe at some stage I'll do a follow-up video about that. But yeah, that's pretty much everything exciting that's happened in the law. Where am I today? I'm at somewhere called Frogpool, because I was going to go out and do this video somewhere else, but it's just been a nightmare day, so I've literally just come out to have a swift half with some friends. I mean, you might be able to see the pub, it's just over there. I mean, Frogpool's a really, really nice place. The one thing is, I don't know if it's actually got a pool with frogs in it. There's a place called Swan Pool, and that definitely has a pool with swans in it, but the only pool around here I can find is an old sinkhole from the mines that's full of water. I've had an investigate, despite the sign saying danger deep water, slippery banks, please keep out, and I haven't seen any frogs, but I'm sure there must be some around. But I don't know if that is an original frog pool. If you do know, put it in the comments. But anyway, as always, hope you found that vaguely useful, vaguely interesting, vaguely accurate. If you did, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, all that YouTubey sort of nonsense. And now I will head back and join my friends at the pub. You missed it, actually. There's a dog came round earlier, and I got distracted and actually panned down to see the dog, and the dog decided to do something. It wasn't a nice image for you, so I had to. It's one of my rare retakes. I won't retake if I just make a mistake, but I will do if I'm filming a dog. It's like doing doggy doos everywhere.